Welcome to Hard Script.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. She said the words like they were a kindness. Ashton, I think I just need a break. A break. Not a breakup. Not goodbye. Just enough space to breathe, without me in the room. She said she needed time to find herself. Said we were in a weird place. Said, it's not about someone else. Which, of course, meant it absolutely was. But I didn't argue. Didn't raise my voice. Didn't beg or bargain or spiral. I just stood there, looking at a woman who used to trace circles on my back at night like it meant something, and nodded. Take all the time you need, I said. She smiled, relieved. Mistook my calm for agreement. Mistook my silence for surrender. But that moment, that wasn't the start of a break. That was the end. Because while she thought I'd be waiting, paused like a loyal page in her story, I was already packing. Not just boxes, but clarity, self-respect, a new direction. She wanted space, so I gave her all of it. The kind you don't come back from. The next morning, she was gone. Took her essentials, her hair straightener, her laptop, that worn hoodie she always said smelled like me. Cute. She thought this was temporary, like she could freeze me in time, like I'd stay untouched by life while she explored her options, flirted with possibilities, tested how far she could pull without snapping the thread. But here's the part she didn't understand. I don't do maybe. I don't pause for people who hesitate when it comes to me. So I didn't cry, didn't wait, didn't scroll her socials or watch the read receipts. I got quiet, got focused, and when the world around me stopped spinning for her, mine started moving faster than ever. She wanted a break. So I broke the pattern, broke the silence, broke free. And years later, when she showed up at that party and shook hands with my wife, you should have seen her face. Because that was the moment she realized. The break wasn't temporary. It was forever. I didn't make a scene. Didn't post cryptic quotes. Didn't announce my departure from her life like some public meltdown. I just vanished methodically. First went the texts. Not blocked. Just muted. She sent two the next day. Hey, hope you're okay. Just thinking about you. Left them unread. Then I logged out of every shared platform. No Spotify. No Netflix. No photos in the cloud. The digital traces of me erased. I wasn't deleting history. I was rewriting it. Next, I cleared the apartment. Didn't throw a thing of hers out. Just boxed it all, labeled her, and left it at her sister's place with a note. She asked for space. I gave it. She called that night. I let it ring. Then again. Voicemail. Okay, this is weird. Can we just talk? No, we couldn't. Because I don't give exit interviews. I give silence. The kind that hurts worse than any argument ever could. I wasn't running. I was walking, steady, calm, eyes forward. Started hitting the gym again. Same one I used to ditch because she felt weird about guys who posted too many mirror pics. Now, I didn't post anything. Didn't need to. The transformation wasn't for anyone else. I picked up a side hustle, photography. Taught myself again. Got so good I stopped freelancing and started booking. Funny thing? Confidence looks like arrogance when you used to apologize for taking up space. Now I was taking all of it. My circle changed. New names. New energy. People who didn't know the version of me who used to wait around for a woman figuring herself out. And her? She started liking my posts again. Random stuff. My dog. My morning runs. My view from the new apartment. I didn't block her. Let her watch. Let her see the distance grow into something she couldn't cross. I was no longer the man she left. And I wasn't bitter. I was becoming. Becoming everything I buried while trying to be understanding. Becoming colder. Sharper. Focused. She wanted a break. I took the pieces and rebuilt without her. It was never about proving her wrong. It was about remembering who I was before I started shrinking. And once I did, the shift was fast. Clean. Undeniable. I cut my hair. Started dressing like someone who respected his own reflection. Not flashy, just intentional. She always told me I tried too hard when I cared about appearance. So for a while, I let it go. Now I knew better. Self-respect isn't arrogance. It's oxygen. I stopped saying yes to things I hated. Stopped picking up calls from people who only knew me through her. Stopped apologizing for wanting more than figuring it out. Instead, I got exact. My mornings became routines. My goals, deadlines. My weekends, productive. People noticed. Not the online crowd. Real ones. Clients. Strangers. Friends who hadn't seen me smile in months. And then it happened. The first time someone mentioned her again. At a mutual friend's get-together. Nothing dramatic. Just, hey, she asked about you. I nodded. Didn't ask back. That silence said more than any update could. Because by then, I wasn't wondering where she was. I knew exactly where she'd be. Somewhere in the middle of her journey, surrounded by people who clapped for every indecision. But me? I had moved past potential. I had become. And maybe that's what she saw when she started trying again. A random, hey stranger DM. A fire emoji on a story I barely posted. A song she sent that reminded her of us. I never responded. Not to be cruel, but because I didn't need to. She had her window. She closed it. I didn't lock the door. I moved out of the house. Now when she looks at me, whether it's online or across a room, she doesn't see the man she paused. She sees a stranger who used to love her. And the weight of that, it's louder than any speech I could ever give. She started showing up in places she hadn't touched in years. A pop-up art event I used to drag her to. Now she was there, suddenly interested in local creators. A coffee spot I'd posted once on a story. Now her check-in showed up the next morning. Coincidence? Maybe. But she was never subtle. The break she once begged for. She was crawling back through its cracks. Quietly. Desperately. She didn't text anymore. Didn't call. Just hovered. Liking old posts. Sending haha reacts to things that didn't need them. Tagging mutuals in memes we would have shared together. Pathetic in its own way. Not because she missed me, but because she only missed the version of me that tolerated her confusion. But that man, he was gone. See, detachment doesn't come with a bang. It's not some massive breakup or shouting match. It's soft, subtle, almost surgical. One day, you just stop waiting for the person to come back. You stop wondering what they're doing. You stop pausing your life for the sake of their journey. You become unavailable. Not because someone else took your place, but because you did. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even curious. What was there to know? That she didn't find what she was looking for during her break? That no one made her feel the way I did? That was never the problem. The problem was she needed to lose me to realize I had value. And by then, I was too far ahead to look back. I heard she started dating again. Short-term things. Unfinished connections. Someone told me she once said, I didn't think he'd move on so fast. Funny. She thought she put me on hold. She didn't expect I'd hang up the line. Now she was calling an empty number. And me? I wasn't bitter. I was booked. Clients. Projects. Early mornings. Late workouts. People who respected my time. Women who didn't flinch at commitment. Friends who didn't walk away when it stopped being easy. The life she left behind. It evolved. And I had no intention of slowing it down just because she finally realized what she threw away. She was still watching. Still orbiting. Still pretending the break was a comma. Not a period. But while she lingered in the rear view, someone else stepped into frame. Her name was Elise. No games. No second guessing. Just presence. She didn't try to fill a void. She just existed fully and let me do the same. We met through work. Quick conversations turned into late coffees. Late coffees turned into long walks. And suddenly, I remembered what it was like to be chosen, not evaluated. There was no moment where I said, I'm ready. I didn't announce a restart. Didn't ask for permission from the past. It just happened. Naturally. Quietly. Like breathing after holding it for too long. And the more I let Elise in, the more obvious it became. I had never been loved before. Just managed. She didn't compare. Didn't measure me against some ideal. She saw value in the small things. The consistency. The intent. The fact I showed up without needing to be begged. One night, I cooked for her. Simple. Clean. She smiled and said, You make space feel safe. That was it. No conditions. No ultimatums. And that's when I realized. I never needed to be more than I was. Just needed the right person to see it. Meanwhile, the ex? She posted something cryptic again. A story with some acoustic song about unfinished love and a quote about timing. I didn't watch it, but someone sent it to me anyway. Looks like she's talking about you, they said. Maybe she was. But she was too late. She had her shot. She paused it. Then she lost it. Because by now, I wasn't just healing. I was building. Not revenge. Not rebound. But something solid. Elise wasn't loud. Wasn't flashy. She just stayed. She didn't have to audition. She just fit. And the best part? I didn't have to teach her how to treat me. She already knew. So while my ex floated in nostalgia, replaying what we used to be, I was already living what I was always meant to have. I didn't post her face first. Didn't show off matching outfits or announce love with a paragraph. That's not how real things start. They grow quiet. They take root. But the world noticed anyway. The first photo was just our hands, a soft focus, no tags. A coffee table. 2 mugs. 1 engagement ring. The comments came fast. Wait, what? Is that who I think it is? Bro, what did I miss? And then, silence. From her. I know she saw it. I didn't block her. Didn't hide. Let her sit with it. I heard through a friend that she went pale when someone showed her the post. Didn't speak. Just scrolled. Over and over. Trying to connect the dots in a timeline she was no longer part of. Truth is, the timeline moved on the moment she pressed pause. I just didn't tell her how fast. We married small, not secret, just sacred. No crowd. No spectacle. Just the right people and no space for the wrong ones. Elise looked at me like she knew. Not who I used to be, but who I had become. Because she watched me do it in real time, without asking for proof. And when I said, I do, I didn't think about the ex. Not for a second. Because when something fits this perfectly, you stop remembering what never did. But for the ex, that day probably hit like a car crash in slow motion. She wanted space. Now there was a lifetime of it between us. I had built the life she thought I'd wait to give her. But I gave it to someone who didn't ask me to shrink first. Later, I saw a post from her. A sunset. Caption. Some endings hurt more when you realize they were your fault. I didn't double tap. Didn't even flinch. She had her pause. I just turned the page. And now the story was written in ink. With a woman who never needed to break me to recognize my worth. It happened at a charity event. Downtown. Art gallery. Free wine and faces pretending to care. I wasn't supposed to be there. Last-minute invite from a client who wanted to introduce me around. Elise came with me. She never clung. She moved through rooms like she belonged there, because she did. And just as we were laughing at some abstract piece that looked like a toddler's tantrum, I heard the voice. Soft. Overly casual. Too familiar. Well, Ashton? I turned. There she was. Hair a little shorter. Smile a little tighter. Wearing confidence like borrowed clothes, not quite hers. Elena, I said, nodding. She looked at Elise. Then back at me. Then at Elise again. No words yet, but her face said it all. Panic, regret, disbelief, all dressed up in lipstick and forced grace. You look different, she finally said. I am. Elise smiled calm, kind, untouched by the tension. Held out her hand. Hi, I'm Elise. Ashton's wife. Wife. She choked on it. Just for a second. But I saw it, the flicker. The realization that this wasn't a girlfriend. Not a rebound. Not a placeholder while I figured things out. This was permanent. She shook Elise's hand. The kind of shake that tries too hard to be effortless. Well, congratulations, she said, voice thinner than usual. Thanks, I replied. We're good. Elise slipped her arm around mine. Not possessive. Just natural. And we stood there, a picture of everything my ex thought would wait for her. She didn't linger. Said something about seeing someone across the room and walked off too quickly. I didn't watch her go. Didn't turn my head. Just let her fade, the way old habits do when they're no longer needed. Later, Elise asked, was that her? I nodded. She seems surprised. She thought I was on pause. Elise didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Some people look back and hope they still have a place. But sometimes, when they finally turn around, all they find is a locked door where they used to be. And I wasn't handing out spare keys. You could feel the tremor the moment she walked away. She didn't cry. Didn't beg. Didn't make a scene. But the silence that followed? It hit harder than any outburst ever could. Later that night, my phone buzzed. A message. Unknown number. But I didn't need a name. You really married her? Then. Was I that easy to replace? I read the text once. Didn't reply. Because the answer wasn't mine to give. It was in her reflection. I didn't replace her. She removed herself. She asked for space, and I gave it to someone else. I heard from a friend that she stopped showing up to events. Said she wasn't feeling like herself lately. That she needed time. Funny how full circle things come when you think you're in control of the clock. I'd moved on. She stayed paused. Now the roles reversed. And she was the one staring through windows. Liking posts she couldn't comment on. And wondering what might have happened if she'd just held on instead of pulling away. But I wasn't mad. I was distant. Because anger is still a connection. and I'd cut every last one. Meanwhile, Elise and I planned a getaway. Just a week. Somewhere quiet. Mountains. Fireplaces. No service. She brought books. I brought a camera. And not once did I think about who I used to be. Not once did I compare her to the past. Because when you're living in peace, nostalgia becomes a lie. The kind you only revisit when you're unhappy. But I wasn't. And Elise? She didn't even ask about the encounter again. That's the thing about secure people. They don't need proof. They're the proof. I posted one photo from the trip. Just her, back to the camera, overlooking a lake. Caption: some things don't need a second chance. They just need to start right. I knew my ex saw it. People like her always do. She had nothing to say this time. No texts. No emojis. Just silence. But this silence wasn't mine anymore. It was hers. The one she asked for. The one she earned. She tried one more time. I knew she would. It always comes, that last swing when they realize you're no longer reachable. Like clockwork. This time it wasn't a text. It was an email. Plain subject line. Just one conversation? No guilt. No rage. Just desperation wrapped in politeness. She said she wanted to talk like adults. Said she was happy for me but still felt unfinished. Said she owed it to both of us to clear the air. The air was already clear. She just couldn't breathe in it anymore. I didn't respond. But I read it, slowly. Every line. Every soft attempt to reopen a chapter she closed with her own hands. Maybe we moved too fast. Maybe I didn't know what I had. I thought we'd always come back to each other. That line stuck. She really thought I'd wait. Thought I'd freeze in time like a paused movie she could play when ready. But I didn't pause. I evolved. That's the difference. People like her think growth means circles. You go, explore, mess around, and eventually come back to center. But real growth? It's a straight line away. I forwarded the email to myself. Not to reread, just to save. A reminder of what indecision costs. A receipt from the past. She tried once more. This time, a mutual friend reached out. Said she was hurting. Said I should maybe hear her out. I asked one thing. Did she ever once think to hear me out when she asked for space? Silence on the other end. I wasn't being cruel. I was being consistent. Because the most painful goodbye is the one that comes after silence. When the other person realizes the door they're knocking on is just a wall now, there's nothing left to explain. Nothing to dissect. Closure doesn't come from conversation, it comes from clarity. And mine arrived the moment she let go of me with such ease. Thinking I just wait on standby. But I don't stand by. I move forward. And she? She's stuck in the reflection. Staring at a version of herself who thought there'd be more time. There's a moment when silence becomes louder than any words. Not because of what's said, but because of what's finally understood. She never reached out again. Not after the email. Not after the friend. Not after the last photo of Elise and I laughing in a cabin, sun pouring through the windows like peace. Maybe she got it. Maybe she finally understood that there's no undo button on time. No pause that doesn't rot if left too long. But by then, it didn't matter. Because I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even cold. I was unreachable. The version of me she thought she could revisit didn't exist anymore. He died the moment she called distance a solution. He faded every time she confused comfort with commitment. And me? I stopped marking time by what I lost. Started living by what I built. Elise and I moved again, bigger place, fewer neighbors. Quiet mornings. Fewer photos. More moments we keep for ourselves. Peace, I've learned, is not the absence of noise, it's the absence of confusion. And love? It's not grand gestures or breakups you crawl back from. It's staying. It's choosing. Every day, even on the boring ones. I no longer wonder what she's doing. I no longer replay old scenes in my head. And the wildest part? Somewhere out there, she probably still wonders if we could have made it. If I ever think about what we had. But here's the truth. There is no we in memory. There's just a man who grew tired of being almost enough. And a woman who thought he'd wait forever. She wanted a break. I gave her forever. She wanted time. I gave her all of it, without her in it. Now she lives in a version of the past she can't edit. And I live in a version of the future she'll never touch. And when not if she hears my name again. When she scrolls too far, or someone mentions me in passing, she'll smile politely, not like she's fine. But deep down, she'll remember what it felt like to shake hands with my wife, and realize that was the last time she ever stood close to the life she gave away. That was her ending. And my beginning. The break she asked for? It became a lifetime. And this silence? It was never punishment. It was the reward she didn't know I deserved. Been through it? When they crossed a line and you made sure they felt it.